Dr. Oz, I want a quick question if I could. It's Maureen here. Hi. You talked about meditation, and that makes me wonder about the future of energy medicine. A couple of us here on the Bob Rivers Show are familiar with Reiki and do a little bit of that. And
not me, not the three of us, as you could say.
Yeah, and that raises eyebrows. What are your thoughts on that, being from a traditional medical background?
Well, I have a traditional background. Again, I was trained in allopathic medicine, conventional medicine, the way it's always practiced. My wife is a Reiki master. And so I spend a lot of time dealing with energy issues. Let me just give my thoughts on this, because I spent a fair amount of time trying to make peace with these challenges. When the average American very understandably says, what the heck is energy? I mean, that doesn't exist. Come on. Well, we define life as doctors, as scientists. We define life as a cell which has energy on the inside that's different from the outside, because the membrane of the cell differentiates inside from outside. When you aggregate those cells into an organ, well, the organ should have energy. And when you put those organs together into an entity like a human body, that should have energy too. And the fact is, we can now measure that energy. Now, we don't know how to change that energy in a constructive way, but we know the energy exists. It's the foundation of Eastern healing traditions. It's the foundation of so much that we do that makes us feel better in our lives. I think the biggest opportunity going forth in the next decade in healthcare and medicine is understanding energy better, because it opens up a huge vista of opportunities that can allow us to have insights into what really makes us feel our best.
Your book, You, the Owner's Manual, written with the help of your wife, is that right? Did Lisa help with that?
Lisa's my co-author on all my books. In fact, I got to say, I'm not, she's not here to defend herself. So
that's all right.
But she really is a source of all the good things that have happened. That book was her idea.
It's a great way for someone who has no idea how their body works to actually have it all explained in real simple terms.
Well, we thought, everything of value you have in life has an owner's manual, right? Your cappuccino machine, right? The car, everything's got one except the most important thing you ever got, which is your own body. So we wrote one.
Dr. Oz, I'm Eric behind you. I have a question about our bodies, too. I've been told that if you look at somebody in the left eye, make left eye to left eye contact, it's a much more powerful connection than if you look at them any other way. It's like right brain talk to right brain, and it's the best way to create a connection. Is that true?
I've never heard that, but I love that idea. I tell you, one of the things is coming out to Seattle, I always learn 2 or 3 things I have never imagined possible. It makes some sense. Because without question, for most of us, our right brain is our intuitive side. It's where we do a lot of the gut responses. And please, out there, if you're not thinking this is important, your gut reactions are usually the right reactions. And the reason for that is because it's ingrained in you to have responses that include your emotional insights. And just to follow that through a little bit, the biggest challenge we have on the show is that I initially thought, very naively, like most men think, that if I just told you what to do, you'd do it. Right? If I just shared the facts with you. And people don't change what they do in life based on what they know. They change what they do based on what they feel. And so if I speak to your intuitive side of your brain, the right side of the brain, which is controlling the left eye, then all of a sudden it all begins to click a little bit. You begin to think, okay, you know what, my gut reactions are the right place to go.
All right. Now, what you're so good at, interacting with the public, would you do a little of that with our audience?
I would love that.
Let's take some phone calls, 1-800-252-1025. Dr. Oz, OZ on the OK. Here is Jeff in Arlington. Jeff, hello.
Hi, guys. Hey, I was curious about why doctors are so quick to prescribe medications instead of finding the causes for underlying conditions.
Jeff, number one reason that happens is because our patients aren't pushing us to do just what you did, to ask that question. And I applaud you for it. Listen, we are raised by moms who had certain beliefs about what doctors should do, like prescribing medications and offering surgery. The patients who come to us, raised by moms, had the same sort of feeling. So culturally, we expect that in the relationship. And we need to change that interaction. We need to make it more of a questioning along the lines of what you asked. Because you know what? Most of the time when you go into the office and you got a little big belly in there and your cholesterol levels are high and your blood pressure is rising up a little bit, and we're looking at each other.
Looking right at me.
Exactly.
With his left eye, though.
Exactly, left eye. Bob, absolutely right. Yeah. But what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to give you medications because they're going to figure, to lose weight. You didn't do it, so I'll help you out. And
right. If you already knew you should do it and you didn't do it, then this is the next best thing.
And although the problem we have, Bob, is that people start to think it's as good. And it's not as good. Now, let me just take the belly for a second. So, a little formula for you. Your belly fat measured in the circumference of your belly. Measured at the level of the belly button.
Look at him, not me.
Okay.
No, look at me too. I'm fine. I'm all ears now because I have a doctor who hasn't given me medication.
I can see you're not all ears.
I have a father-in-law who says, you're going to die if you don't get the medication. Take the medication. I'm on nothing, but I have high cholesterol.
Well, I think there's a little bit too much of you right now, and that's one of the problems. You're going to deal with that. I'm looking in your left eye now.
Okay.
This is important. If you measure your belly at the level of the belly button and it's more than half your height, you got too much belly fat in there, right? So how tall are you?
5'8".
5'8". So 5 times 12, 60 inches, plus 8 inches, 68 inches, divided in half, 34 inches.
So I got to get down to 34 inches?
34 inches.
Woo.
And, unlike most guys, if you wear the fat above the belt, then you can't measure your belt size. You got to get a measuring tape and measure it, which is one thing we don't do. However, just let's go with men and women and kids. Same formula applies. The omentum fat, the fat that's inside the muscle, is the one I'm worried about. It does three things. It poisons your liver, and by doing that, elevates the lousy cholesterol numbers that you were talking about. It puts pressure on your kidneys. That causes high blood pressure. And it blocks insulin, causes diabetes. Those three things drive more healthcare illnesses and more healthcare expenses than anything else put together.
And my liver doesn't like me much anyway. I mean, I do it a disservice just by living. So living with the belly is probably.
I don't. Well, I tell you, with the bellies, unfortunately, we all got foie gras in there. That's what goes on.
All right. Renee in Seattle, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Oz. And I'm giving a plug to Bastyr. I went there for high cholesterol, family hereditary. And they found out my thyroid TSH was a little high, and within 6 months, my cholesterol came down 50 points.
What a great example of what you can do if you think about the whole body together. So a lot of folks walking out there have high cholesterol. Two leading causes of high cholesterol are thyroid problems. As our caller just reflected, there's going to be someone out there listening today, I guarantee you, who's got crazily high cholesterol levels, even though they've lost all the belly fat. And I tell you, some of you are going to have thyroid issues. Please go check it out.
Check it out.
The other thing is in the wintertime, if you don't get enough sun, you know, what sun does is converts cholesterol to vitamin D, which you do need. Number one vitamin deficiency we have.
In Seattle, by the way, everybody should be on a vitamin D supplement. That's what my naturopath says.
He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
You need to have that. Now, think this through for a second. If you don't have enough sun, the body's going to try to make vitamin D. The only way it knows how to do that is to give you more cholesterol.
Really?
Yeah, so your cholesterol levels will rise in the wintertime in Seattle, as they do in most parts of the country, because you're craving the sun you can't get. So the body's getting ready, just in case you get even a little bit of sunlight. It'll quickly convert all the cholesterol to vitamin D.
Renee, thank you. Scott, you're on the air with Dr. Oz. Go ahead.
Dr. Oz, thank you for taking my question. My wife told me that she heard from you on your show that picking your nose hairs or plucking your nose hairs can actually kill you. Is that true?
It is true. Your wife, by the way, your wife is always right. You know that all the time. You know, there's something called...
I heard something like this on your show, too.
Yeah,
if you do it at dinner with her boss, you are dying instantly.
It's called the triangle of death. That triangle is the triangle with the points at the tips of your lips on either side, right and left side, and then the brow in between your eyes. And that triangle of death is so called because all the veins that drain from there go into your brain. So if you pick your nose hairs, which you probably often do for other cosmetic reasons as well, if you get a pimple in your nose, the infection will pass into the cavernous sinus, which is the veins that drain that part of your face, and you can get a brain infection and die from that. So you never want to touch those areas, especially around the areas of your nose.
Like, and I think I saw the same thing, and it was like even perhaps getting rid of a little pimple or something.
Pimples on your nose.
Just leave them be?
Leave them be.
Really?
And if you really want to be aggressive about them, you can take a little
You
needle.
could kill yourself. Has it happened? Documented?
Oh, absolutely. Without question. Yeah.
In the middle of like someone's... A lot of times it won't happen, of course.
Well, most of the time it won't happen, thankfully. But we're talking about people who play with the infection. The infection gets into the vein. It causes a clotting of the vein. It's called a cavernous sinus thrombosis. Big word. We make big words in medicine to scare people. That one's a good one to make.
Thank you, Scott. Jill is in Bellevue. Jill, go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Oz. I love your show. Thanks for the call, or taking my call. My mom recently had an endoscopy procedure, and the following day she had a vascular rash on her legs, and her dermatologist said that it was because of the sedative. Is that correct?
It's very possible. When you give people medications, which we often do around the time of a colonoscopy, you give them antibiotics to prevent infections, and so it could be an allergy to that. And you give them sedatives so it doesn't hurt so much. And so many of those products have chemicals in them that we are unable to predict will cause reactions. Usually if it's just a little rash, it gets better over time. If they don't have a breathing problem associated with it, we don't worry about it too much.
All right, great.